Hello, this is Jo Fairley from the Perfume Society, and I am shortly, I hope, to be joined by Emmanuelle Moeglin of the Experimental Perfume Club, who have really, I think, brought a breath of fresh air to the perfume world. Here she comes. I just have to let her in. Hooray! I think we're nearly there. We'll just wait for Emmanuelle. And then I will finish introducing her. Hello.
Hey,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
How cool to have a view of your lab. So
Here we go.
here it is. Yes, we're really good. I was just really talking about how you have kind of shaken the perfume world up a little bit by basically enabling us all to become perfumers, which, which clearly almost everybody who follows the Perfume Society secretly wants to be a perfumer, or not so secretly, perhaps.
Yes.
But so we've had lots of questions, which is lovely, from our followers and from yours, and they're all coming online now. So I wanted to ask it. Several people had asked the same question, which really was quite simply when you decided you wanted to become a perfumer and how that happened.
Okay. Well, thank you for the lovely introduction. I don't know if everybody will be happy to hear that I can make anyone become a perfumer. We'll talk about it. But I'm glad at least. I mean, perfumery. I think it's a big word and it's a big title, but I'm glad I'm able to, through my activity, to bring the world of perfumery to people. And I think that's the most important for me. But for your question about how I became a perfumer, how I got my way into perfumery. So for me, it's a lifelong aim. Since I think since the age of 10, 12, I've been set in that path.
Wow.
I don't know, like I'm quite a determined person, and I think I was quite a determined kid somehow. And I got into this passion of perfumery when I was a kid. I was collecting things when I was a kid. I was a bit of a nerd, and I was collecting like little perfume bottles. And it started out like this, and then so very young, like 12 something, but I didn't know that you could be a perfumer. I didn't even know it was a thing, right? I mean, when you're a kid. And when I was 15, so at the age of more, when in France, you start to seriously talk about what you're going to do after school, then my mum made me meet someone she knew who was in the perfume industry. And Pauline, she's still a very good friend of mine. She's an evaluator, and she did the Zipka. And then ever since, I was just set, and I knew that I wanted to do that, and I wanted to work to go into Zipka. So yeah, it's a pretty long life.
So did you focus a lot on science subjects at school, because it is quite a scientific requirement to get into ISIPCO, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So ISIPCA asks you to have a chemistry degree. So indeed, I did focus all of my study at school through that, and I didn't want to do chemistry like any of the students that goes into ISIPCA, but I did it. Luckily for me, I was quite a scientist like kid, so even if I hadn't had ISIPCA, I would have probably done something quite scientific anyway. So.
Interestingly, just talking about ISIPCA, somebody has said to me not long ago that she felt that they concentrated so much on the science, but not so much on the emotional side of perfume. Did you feel that it gave you enough on that side? Because obviously that's, for us, the end consumers, the perfume lovers, that we like to think that emotion has played a role, not just chemistry and science.
Yeah. It's funny actually. it's only quite recently that it hit me how important chemistry was when you create fragrances. I don't know, like things just takes time to come in place, etc. So when you learn perfumery, especially at ISIPCA, science and chemistry is a very heavy topic. I agree, a bit too much of a focus, but I do think it's super important. If you don't, you definitely don't need a degree in chemistry. I mean, doing chemistry way too much, but you definitely need to understand chemistry. Why? Is because one of the first things you study when you study perfumery, you study chromatography, for instance. The chromatography not of necessarily of perfume formula, but chromatography of ingredients. So natural ingredients, for instance, will be made of a lot of molecules, and study when you start in perfumery, you study how to reconstitute or recreate rose or recreate jasmine. So if you don't have a good understanding of this, like how like at a molecular level things work, then it can be quite tricky. But I agree with you that, you know, obviously perfumery is not only about this. It's you can learn the chemistry of perfumery in a fairly simple way. You know, you learn how to do dilution. You definitely don't need the amount of chemistry to do dilution. Do you see what I mean? But
Yeah.
these are very basic element of chemistry that you need. I would say I would still say though, to defend ISIPCA, that ISIPCA is trying their best, I think, to kind of juggle between having part of science chemistry so that they can link it to a diploma that is recognized in France, because I think the reason why they have kind of issue, and also to still be obviously creative and emotive, well, you know, the creativity of people as well.
It's a long course, isn't it?
Yeah, it's long because they ask you for a degree, which is 3 years.
Yeah.
And then it's another 2 years. And then most of the time when you get out of ISIPCA, the secret is that you're still not a perfumer. You still need another, I would say, 2-3 years of training in a company to start kind of handling it. I wouldn't say that you know, after that time you get it, but yeah, I would say 2 years of ISIPCA plus another 2 or 3 years to really kind of start clicking.
One of our viewers just asked, they've tuned in and they'd like to know who you are. So for anybody who's just joined, this is Emmanuelle Moeglin of the Experimental Perfume Club, which is it's a workshop and it's morphed into a fragrance collection. So the idea is that you can actually make your own perfume at workshops, which, as we'll come on to, are now available online, so that you can learn to become a baby perfumer at home. So yes, we're chatting through till 1:30. And Emmanuelle, you've been a long friend of the Perfume Society. I think we came to one of your workshops very early on. And a question from Susie, who works at the Perfume Society, will fill in the gaps in your career in a moment. So, you know, where you went to train. But what makes you different as a perfumer is that you want to share that knowledge much more widely. What was it that later made you want to educate people about perfumery and about how you make things?
Yeah. You know, in my early career, when I started in perfumery, I was an evaluator. So I was working very closely with perfumers in the development of fragrances with them. And you know, what you have to know is that people who work in the perfume industry, which are perfumers, evaluators, it's not a world made just of perfumers. The world made of fragrance experts. Like, these people are, they are nerds. They know everything that is to know about perfume. They are so good in their topic, but so good, so detailed, and it's mind-blowing when you start working with people, you know, even people with less experience, they still so geek, they still love perfume, so much. And what struck me when I started perfumery, as in working in the perfume industry, is that it takes about 2 years to develop a fragrance, and it takes a big team of people who are highly qualified and highly nerd in their topic. And when a fragrance is launched, it's launched to a public that doesn't understand anything about it. And I thought it was just such a shame to have two worlds, the perfumers world, which are so good at what they do and really passionate, and that the product that is delivered to the public who has almost no clue of what goes behind, who made it, how, you know, how it's created. So I think this is what kind of sparked my idea of to share this knowledge that I knew, not that I know much, but you know, the things that I've accumulated over the years and studying and working with a lot of big names in perfumery, and it's something I was quite passionate about it. And the more I was teaching people, the more I was working with people, as in from the general public, the more I realized how important the education part of perfumery is. Why? Because yes, it's true, people are not educated enough about perfumery, but also about their sense of smell. And this is a very basic thing, but you know, learn to understand your sense of smell, and perhaps be a little bit more mindful of a lot of other things, you know, and that can be your sense of taste, that can also be your inner creativity. And also just giving the opportunity of people to create something is also a very great platform for people, because a lot of people come to the workshop saying like, I have no clue, people have very little hope that they will come out with something nice. It always makes films with joy when I see like people just having a big smile and they just cannot believe that they created something that smells nice. And yeah.
We're losing you, a few of your words. Do you have a good enough Wi-Fi signal there? Just.
I think so.
Okay. The problem is that the entire world is on the internet at any one time, so the signal can be a bit random. So it's still a big leap to decide to set up a physical space and teach people how to make perfume. And of course, that was your original vision before you kind of came out with fragrances, the layering collection and the blends as well. So what made you into an entrepreneur? I mean, you've become an entrepreneur setting this up. What gave you that spark, and why did you decide that a physical space teaching people to make perfume was what you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, you know, when I started this, I started of my my other job, full-time job, and as a weekend thing, like as a hobby. And I was seeing more and more interest, but and then just seeing more lining up. And then what I've done is that I don't know if are you still losing me, or is that okay?
It's a bit dodgy, but we're pretty much there. Yeah.
And I started out in a small space, was a pop-up, and then I did this for 6 months, and then I realized that I loved it, and I didn't want to be an employee anymore of a big corporation. And actually, I didn't want to be an employee for a long time. And I think when you know it since very young, but you just don't know its natural path, because especially in France, it's not necessarily a country that encourage entrepreneurship that much, or at least not when
not like Britain.
Exactly. You know, it's not like a country like America, for instance, where every other person is a business owner. But yeah, and then I just guess I took the lead, you know, I just did it. I love it. You have to have that flame to become an entrepreneur. You really have to have, it is not, to become an entrepreneur is not just, oh yeah, I want to become an entrepreneur. It's a real uh,
Well,
inner drive.
I always think that what makes a real entrepreneur is it's not just having an idea, because everybody has ideas and they talk about ideas. It's actually rolling up your sleeve and doing all the things that turn that idea into a reality. That's the true
Exactly.
entrepreneurial spirit. I don't even know what brought you to London in the first place.
It was my ex-boyfriend.
Okay. It's always an ex-boyfriend or a
Yeah,
current boyfriend, yeah.
no, you know what? Actually, that's a better story. So, for I've worked all of my kind of late childhood to get to EasyCam. And then when I got into the entry, there is a big entry exam to get into EasyCam, which is quite hard. I don't know how it is now because we're talking like 15 years ago, but back then it was quite hard because they were taking only 20 students out of a few hundred. Like it was quite people taking the exam, and I didn't go through the first time.
Ah,
Had a pretty tough jury back then, and I was quite a shy kid, I guess. And I just didn't thrive in the kind of like jury. We had like 5 people in front of us. It was quite intimidating, but good though. And so what happened is I was devastated, and I mean, what you do when you're kids. And then I didn't know what to do because I wanted to retake the entry, allowed twice take the entry at EasyCap. And what I decided, I want to continue my master degree in chemistry in France. So I decided to go to the UK,
okay.
year abroad, where I met my ex-boyfriend, who then made me go come here in London many years later after.
Yeah. And you're obviously very much at home here now.
Yeah, yeah. Now I've got my whole life here. I've got
Yeah.
a dog, a house, and everything.
Susie, who works for the Perfume Society, wants to know, I mean, literally, can anybody become a perfumer on one of your courses? I mean, if you come through the door or if you take the online course, and there was a question here about how you do the online course without smelling things, and actually you do smell things. That's the point, and we'll explain how. But everybody who comes through your door uh, isn't a perfumer, and yet when they leave, they have a perfume in their hands that they've created. So, do you kind of think anybody can make a smell?
No.
No.
That's a short answer. So look, so this workshop we're very clear and we're very transparent with people. We have a whole kind of like kind of not terms and conditions, but things like we're very transparent. We say like, look, you're coming to an educational workshop. You're coming. It's recreational. It's educational. You're going to learn a lot of things, but there is a big, very long
Yeah.
between what you can come and experiment here and becoming a perfumer. So I would say the online course that we've launched, which are real perfumery online course, by
Yeah.
the way, not a version of the workshop, and they are like 6 modules. They're quite intense. They're not for everybody, as in like the workshop is for everybody. Literally everyone from the general public can come. They can have fun, half a day, etc. The online course, I would say, is more for a type of audience that is a little bit more in the know, kind of really looking into something a little bit more
Uh-huh.
in depth. You do learn a lot of things. It's over 6 weeks, etc. But really, what made a real what makes a perfumer is first, I would say, a training that is either through a school or you also have like self-taught perfumers nowadays. But you need to put the training, and I would say 1 year would be the minimum.
Uh-huh.
For me, what makes a perfumer or an evaluator, by the way, so anyone who works in the fragrance industry is someone who has worked in the industry. And I think for me, you only validate this training the moment that you work in a company that allows you to put in practice what you
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the difference between a hobbyist perfume maker, and there are lots of them out there. And I think this is the people that we are talking to, and the people who are perfumers and are in the industry and are creating to an end that is a commercial end.
Yes.
So they're developing fragrances that, yeah, that is going to be put on the market at some point.
Exactly. Not just a pretty smell because they like it, but because
exactly.
a fragrance that has a market and an end customer and has to please more than just the person who's smelling it and their best friend.
Exactly. That said, though, and this is why it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you can't be a hobbyist. Not everybody is a 3-star Michelin chef. And there's lots of people who home and cook very well. So I do believe that the same can apply with perfumery. Not everybody has to be in the industry. You can also have actually be a really good perfume maker at home. You do it because you love it. You do it because it gives you a creative outlet. You do it because your sense of smell is particularly developed and you love it. It's a passion. But I think it applies for everything out there. You can write things. It doesn't make you a better author. Do you see what I mean? And
yes, and you don't have to go to art school to be an artist. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell us about the online courses, and because you have several on offer, I think. And so tell us what price they are. Can you offer them globally, or are they just in the UK because of the problems sending fragrance across borders? So talk us through the different courses and the logistics of I know we have a lot of international viewers, and so is there any way they can do this?
Yeah, so the online course is definitely has been accelerated by the fact that we're close to the public. So we've put this together during the COVID crisis, and so we have two kind of level of online course. We've got a 2 weeks ingredients course. So this one only focus and set to the learning of ingredients. You learn how to describe ingredients. You learn categorize ingredients, you learn all of the basic about ingredients, and you have 30 of the most common ingredients you can train and learn as you go along. And then you got this.
What would a few of those be? Just share what some of those are.
We work with both natural and molecules, of course. So, for instance, I don't know, I can't remember now on the top of my head, but we will have all of the basic of the natural. So, rose absolute, jasmine absolute. We will have cedarwood. We would have molecules such as cis-3-hexanol, isoester. On top of my head, like so. In peach, etc., etc. So the very basic, when you want to learn and get into perfumery, you have to have almost like your kind of must-have perfume ingredient set. We work with this, and so the most interesting one, I think. So this one is £300 with the kit, with the ingredients. But the most interesting one and better value actually for what you get is a 6 modules. So spread across 6 weeks. Doesn't mean that you have to finish in 6 weeks. You could take like 12 weeks, but it is released every week. And this is a 6 modules creation course. So this one is much more advanced. You go through the first 2 weeks, which are the study of the ingredients, the study of everything to understand an ingredient's description, vocabulary of scent, category, families, etc. And then you go into the practice. So this is what you don't get into the ingredient course, but you get into. So you learn how to set up a mini lab at home, and how to do basic perfumers laboratory work, so dilutions, how to handle solid ingredients, etc. So like you have to kind of heat them very gently. And then you go into the creation. So we go through a whole modules on awards, and then a whole modules on actually creating a more complex formula.
Do they send you their homework I mean, how does it work?
But we're very much at the tweaking phase because we literally launched it 3 weeks ago. So at the moment, we don't have, we give people homework, things to do as they go along, but we don't revise them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I had the videos, old video tutorials. This is 7 hours in total, so spread across 35 lessons, I think. So it's quite a lot of lessons. But we hope that they are self-explanatory enough so that people read it.
And what price is the longer course?
So during the stay at home, we put it at 600, which is a discount to what we would put it.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Somebody just asked how they can find out the information, and they can go to experimentalperfumeclub.com.
Yeah.
And also, when we put this film on our website, which will probably be tomorrow, we will put all the details of the courses as well. So so you can find them on perfumesociety.org tomorrow. And you know, as we're talking about the courses, obviously this is, everyone mentions the word pivot at the moment, where companies that have, you know, you had a shop in Selfridges, you had workshops that people came to. How did you want to go and hide behind the sofa when all this happened, or did you just go, okay, we've got to sort something fast? I mean, you have had that incredible store in Selfridges, which presumably is just gathering dust right now.
Yes. It's an interesting question. Why? Because when I started EPC, the idea was to always be consumer facing. Why? Yeah. I really wanted to have that kind of interaction with the users, with the consumers. Yes, we opened this concession at Selfridges when we launched Layer, stuff like this, and so I literally put 100% of my focus and everything I had into store or, you know, consumer facing. So when the crisis hit, that was hard.
Yeah.
It was a big blow for the business. But luckily for me, it's pretty much only me, and then I've got a team, my team, but I'm very agile and switch around very quickly. So from one day to the other, okay, right. I had on the back burner this online course, which is such a big, heavy piece of content to put out there.
Yeah.
I never had the time to do it in my before COVID, you know.
Yeah.
And then we thought, okay, you know, we had like quite a lot of people who were asking since quite a long time now if we were doing online, especially the people nationally. So we kept messages, and that was before the crisis, messages from everywhere, you know, Nigeria, US, Asia, etc. Do you do online? Do you do online? And I was like, no, we consumer facing, we workshop, come to us. But then it was on the back of my head, and I guess after teaching for so long now, you know, with the workshop, I think it came to a natural process. So yes, COVID triggered it, and but in a way it's quite good because it kind of left me some time and some space to create that.
And it will be a permanent part of your offering from now on. You know, that's a big tick. You've done that now.
Yeah.
Even if it was speeded up. So let's talk a little bit. You developed from creating these workshops and offering these workshops in a physical space to the Layers collection. This is before the blending option in the stores. So what made you want to do Layers? And has layering, we'll talk a bit about layering as well, but has that been something you've always kind of been a proponent of, a fan of?
So I think that this word layering is we we're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it because I love this name, layers, and I thought it was really cool and it was fitting, but actually it's more about blending. So the collection is not about layering. It's really what we are offering. It's an opportunity to blend different fragrance with minimalistic formulas together to create something completely different. So it's really a step up to layering.
Uh-huh.
It's called layers. A lot of people think that it's a collection to layers, but for instance, what we've done with Self really made it come to life.
Yeah.
We have a blending bar in Selfridges that is on the dust at the moment, of course, but when we reopen, so you can come there and have a consultation and then we blend it. But I guess it was a kind of like natural from the workshop. So the workshop is like when you teach people how to create a fragrance. And then obviously I couldn't, the workshop is a very small audience, it's 10 people, most of the time is people London based or UK based. But we had quite a few international crowd that are coming, but obviously they tie it into a trip, you know, like as in like a holiday trip or something like this. So I really wanted to kind of bring that idea of like, how can you have fun, experiment and blend perfume, but in a more retail kind of product environment. And then this whole kind of collection alive. I didn't work on my own with this. I worked with a designer who helped me to kind of put together the whole idea and the concept, etc. And then ever since it was launched 2 years ago, it hasn't stopped evolving because it's a tricky concept, blending perfumes. When I launched, I was the only one. Now we are 2 or 3. There is a new company in France who does like blending thing, but it's still fairly new. People still need to get used to it, need to get used to the idea of like you can blend perfume. You can't perfume though. Don't try that at home with your champagne and Coco Mademoiselle together. I don't think it will. There is a trick, of course, but yeah.
When this reopens, I can't recommend the experience too highly, because it's a kind of editing process, isn't it? You get things to smell and you say what you like, and ultimately you end up with a blend that is one of how many ultimate blends are there altogether?
On the layers or the workshops?
No, on the layers in the store. So in Selfridges, there are how many potential fragrances that you could end up with?
We actually couldn't count. There's so many. We're talking about like 20,000 possible combination. Wow. But Selfridges, we're showcasing a library of formulas. So there are 20 formulas that are kind of like our best. You know, the kind of like the things that we tested in trials. And it's a pretty foolproof collection. So anything that you will blend anyway would work. But in Selfridges, we're kind of showcasing the best of the best, if that makes sense.
The reason I know it works so well is because Susie from the Perfume Society and I have almost identical taste in fragrance. I mean, I know when I smell something that she's going to love it and vice versa. And we both ended up with the same fragrance from the collection. And it was, and of course we would, you know, if the system worked, that's exactly what would have happened. So we both ended up, and then I can't remember what Susie called hers, but I have mine here, and it's I called it Ombre Peur, I think.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the one. So you get in Selfridges, you actually get to name the fragrance yourself. And it's stuck on the bottle, which is blended in front of your eyes, etc. So it's a very, very personal experience. But moving forward, it is going to be challenging in a retail setting. You know, people are, I think, going to be scared to go to London, to go to crowded stores. It's going to take a while for this fear that's been used to control us to kind of wear off. You know, we've all done what we were told. We've stayed home. and the big wide world for many people seems a bit scary now. So what is your feeling about how it might evolve, or do you just, like everybody else,
How
you
it
just
might turn.
wait and see?
Yeah. Uh, I think the interesting thing of this crisis is like, when you have a brand, you always have to look things quite far ahead, like 6 months, 1 year. You
Yeah,
always have planning to move. So it's interesting to see that now you can't.
you want
The
that.
most you can plan.
I know. Just
So
yeah,
yeah,
it's
a little bit disarming, but in a positive way, I guess. So my hope is that the people will come back
yeah,
to be out, and um, that life, we're quite a resilient species, human beings,
amazing,
so and very adaptable. So I
very
think
adaptable.
we will kind of come back to some sort of store, etc. But meanwhile, I think I think for me, what has saved us a little bit throughout this crisis is that we have our laboratory outlets. So we actually, having been able to show people that we are not just a brand, we actually makers. We actually, this is how we create. This is how we do things. Like, um, there is this ingredients in our formula, and we can actually show it on camera. And
Uh-huh.
I think brand, perhaps throughout this whole kind of crisis where people are not going to be in store, should potentially look into this, into kind of sharing their story into a more convenient way. For us, we're such a small company, and we still do everything, like
Yeah,
we fill our bottles, we put the labels on our bottles, and everything come out of this place of the lab. So it's easy for us because we make our perfume, and we create
yeah,
and we teach in our perfume. But I think every brand has a story to tell, so it's just of sharing that story in a way that people will resonate on. And of course, this whole kind of discovery set, for instance, and because people are a bit scared of buying the kind of like full size. So
yeah.
obviously, having a discovery set, we have one, and we're about to launch another one, which is going to essentially
It's the bestseller on our website, Emmanuelle.
no way.
No, it really is. I mean, but you're absolutely right. People now more than ever, you can't go into a store and try something on your skin. So, the chance to explore it and let it develop on your skin at home, at your leisure, on your sofa, on your Zoom call, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's more than ever going to be how people shop for perfume, because you can't just drift through a department store at the moment and just go a bit of this and a bit of that. And actually, we know, I don't know if you know, but when people buy our Perfume Society discovery boxes, about it's, I think, over 70% of people say that they will go on to buy a full size fragrance from the set, which is phenomenal conversion.
Yeah.
But it's because they've had the time.
Yeah.
They've actually given that fragrance the time to develop. And if this experience with COVID does one thing for us, it has given us more time. So just going on to some questions for some of our from some of our readers. What advice would you give to somebody who wanted to start their own independent brand of interior and body fragrance? And I'm assuming that they are not a perfumer by profession.
Yeah. So
pretty big thing.
So I assume like they're looking into having a candle brand, like a candle associated
Something
to their
like that, yeah.
what they kind of talking about. So if they have the time, I would not necessarily recommend this first point, but we have a lot of people who come to us with that idea in mind. So I kind of expand on it. But if they have the time, the passion, then why not try, learn, and experiment and do it. So when you put a product on the market, it's not something that you do in your kitchen and here we go, this is the product, I'm allowed to sell it. So it doesn't work like this, fortunately. You have to tick quite a lot of regulatory boxes, lots of kind of, you know, company but corporate boxes in order to put a product on the market and to sell it to the end consumer. So my advice is that when you start a company that is related to perfume or related to something else, is that they actually seek advice with professionals from. So that could be independent perfumers, that could be perfumery company, and then if from there they decide that perhaps they do not have the budget, because fragrance development is actually a substantial
expensive.
Fragrance development is very long. It's not something you do in 2 weeks. It's something that in many months. And so if they realize that they don't have the budget, that is just way too big of a project, then perhaps they can do little by little and start from scratch, doing it themselves, and then things like this. But I would never recommend to put a product on the market without having seen professional advice, and more without making sure that the product that you put on the market is safe to use for the consumer.
It's safe, of course. It has to be safe. A question's just come in from Andrew Kiriakou, who works for Atkinson's, I happen to know, who's at home now, I'm sure. But he wants to know, what is your favorite feel-good fragrance during these times? So obviously, it's been a very challenging time for any entrepreneur. Do you have one of your experimental perfume club fragrances or combinations that is your go-to when you need that kind of lift of your spirits, when you need to feel good again?
So I'll tell you a secret. I don't wear the fragrance that I've created. But also I would be too critical of them. But I guess one blend that I really, really liked, and I was actually quite surprised about it, because it's almost like when I put together all of these different blends from the Layers collection, was the Jasmine Osmanthus and the Fig Neroli, and then it created a gardenia, and I love. And it's both together. It's a blend that I've named Théosmante.
Okay.
It really has this kind of, it's very green, and it's also obviously very kind of, you know, jasmine tuberose, but together the greenness and the jasmine create a third scent. That makes sense with the gardenia. But that would be for my for kind of one of my favorite blend of Layers, which I don't wear, by the way. But otherwise I just love Neroli. That's my my happy scent.
We just did a little poll in the office, and Neroli came out #1 as the #1 sort of spirit lifting scent out there. Yeah. It was a question, why don't you love your babies? I.e., why don't you wear your own perfume?
So you wear the fragrance when you develop them, because obviously you have to put them on your skin, you have to kind of, you know, see how they develop, etc. But I sometimes wear the Amber Iris because it's one of my favorites, but I would say that I can tend to become overcritical, and the problem is that when the perfume is in the bottle, it's too late. You can't touch it, you can't tweak it anymore. It's out there.
So you smell it and you think, oh, I wish I'd just added a little bit of X, Y, and Z. But we would never know that. We would never know.
It is like, I think like a perfumer, I'm sure it's the case of many persons, they can be quite, you know, self-critical. Like it's a perfume. It's a very hard creative pass, you know, like it's because a perfume is first never finished, a perfume is never perfect, and a perfume is also subjective, you know, whether what is good, what is not good, etc. So you kind of, as a creative perfume, you kind of navigate within all of these kind of things, and then plus you also have to include other people kind of advice or recommendation or thinking around this. So yeah.
There was an interesting question that just came up there, was that have you ever created anything that you kind of really didn't like at the beginning but you went on to love, or vice versa, something that you really loved at the beginning and now you just don't love it at all?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to think of like when that happened. Yeah, I think so. You kind of like get tired, but then take a little bit of space from it, and then you come back, and then you love it again. So I guess it's you never. I mean, I never got to the point where it was a hate. I can't do that.
No. You probably wouldn't have put it in a bottle if that had been the case. But yeah. But you know, the interesting thing about your fragrances is that they are, you know, the packaging is very simple. It doesn't have a kind of, you know, a glitzy box. It doesn't have a tale of romance written about it, you know, as most fragrances that reach the market do, with a kind of marketing message and a name that is designed to kind of whisk you around the world, or make you feel romantic or sexy or whatever. And so it's really, with your fragrances, about what is in the bottle, which of course is, you know, very much the approach that we take at the Perfume Society. It doesn't matter what it is, just smell it and kind of work out how you feel about it. So do you think that this is a direction that fragrance is moving in, is kind of away from the kind of big marketing story, and a kind of return, a focus on what does it smell like, how does it make me feel?
Yeah, that was my big hope when I launched Layers, because the packaging that that we have now, second generation packaging, we've improved the design.
Oh, it's beautiful. I'm not saying it's not beautiful, but it doesn't. It you know, it's not.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's no bling.
There's no fluffy fluff around it, and so yes. I think for me, when I developed this brand, it took me a year to develop the first 3 fragrances, and I pour everything I had. Like, you know, I really worked very hard on it, and for me, the juice was the most important part. And I launched the fragrance with kind of like the first generation packaging was a very basic kind of box and things like that. And if, you know, give people hang on. Yeah, this is what I was hoping to kind of bring to people, the idea of, you know, sometimes it's important to look at what's inside the bottle rather than what's outside. Turns out that people do love the shape of their bottles. They do love a good, nice packaging. So you can't really live that. However, there is.
But I was just going to say, you managed to go down the sustainable route with your packaging, and yet still have it beautiful. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, actually, because you won a luxury packaging award, didn't you, for EPC? And so tell us about what it was about your packaging that won that award.
Yeah, so packaging that is completely. I don't know. Yeah, it keeps on cutting. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
It's a bit wobbly again, but we can hear you.
Kind of like the joy of live. So yeah, we have a completely like eco sustainable approach to our packaging. So our packaging is 100% recyclable, is SFC. produced here in the UK, and we I've decided not to cell wrap the bottle. That is a big thing, and I really want to put this more forward to the people who buy perfumes, is that you don't realize how much of an issue this is, because when you buy perfume, you just buy one perfume once a year. You don't realize that the cello wrap is in fact not your one bottles, but hundreds of thousands of bottles in the stock room. And I never visited a stock room of a retail shop before, never. And then I arrived in Harvey Nichols when it launched in Harvey Nichols, and realized this kind of rows of cello wrap packaging. And I was like, okay. And this is when I decided to stop cello wrapping. So this comes with a downside, because stock room are also very dusty.
Yeah.
And so we had to kind of, there is a technical issue in not cello wrapping. And cello wrapping is not only to be pretty. Cello wrapping is because it protects the product, etc. But I've decision in not cello wrapping the product. And also our bottles are refillable, so you can bring your empty bottles either to here the lab or self-refuse and then get it refilled. Not many brands do this. I hope that more brands would do that in the future.
I mean, I think it's going to be one of the big trends. Definitely we hear more and more and more about people wanting, not to waste things. And I think that the other thing that's come through this particular period in our lives and in history is just thinking about those things much more. We really think about what we actually need, what we actually waste, and we've been trying to do, to keep things as minimal as possible. And I believe that will stay in people's consciousness after this is just a dim and distant memory, I hope. There was a question that somebody has put on twice, so they obviously really want to have it answered. Would it ever be possible for somebody who was musk blind, because there are some people who cannot smell musk, could they ever become a perfumer?
That's a good question. I would say a lot of people think that they are musk blind. That's the first thing. And actually, when I was at Izika, there was many musk I couldn't smell. And then the more you train to know, so it's not because you can't smell a musk in the first place that you're not going to smell it ever. And also, there is something interesting about being an osmotic musk, is that you may be able to smell it when it's in a competition. But I would say it's a little bit of an obstacle, but I would say it's going to prevent you to become a perfumer or hobbyist into perfume. I don't think.
Well, I'm fascinated that there were some that you couldn't smell when you got there, and what we find, as you know, we do our How to Improve Your Sense of Smell workshops, which we are going to put online, guys. What we know is that the more you smell and the more you write down what you can smell, the better your sense of smell becomes. So presumably, while you're at perfume school, I'm thinking here out loud, your sense of smell becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, because you're doing that thing of basically exercising it and linking words to smells, which is a way of kind of imprinting them on your memory and your brain.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, for me, that's the biggest realization. That's my biggest, most important realization when I started learning about perfumery, is describing scent. And this is the only way, for me, this is the only path to learning perfumery. And if you do not do this, stay silent. If you smell things and just smell it and try to smell is jasmine, no, that it's just not going to work. You have to describe the smell with words that you know. We learn by association. So if you associate words that are the words from your everyday vocabulary to a smell, then essentially you will learn that smell. And then, as you say, it will also expand and develop of smell and stuff like this. But I don't think anyone is born a perfumer. You know, Grenouille of the novel, the perfume book. It's a myth. You know, like you don't born and with an extraordinary sense of smell. I think for me, you're born with a curiosity and with a passion. And if you have both the passion for curiosity for perfume, then the training will do. And yes, long training, but training and become perfumer.
But you do look at kids and you know, I mean, I think of two kids in my family, and one of them literally goes around putting her nose in absolutely everything. She just wants to know what the world smells like. And the other one, not really bothered, you know. But you were obviously that kid who went around smelling absolutely everything.
No, I wasn't. I just love perfume. I was smelling everything. But I think it's exactly that. It's like, I think it's whether you are that kid that smell everything or that kid that has this, like, I mean, for me, it was collecting bottles. It was collecting, you know, I was collecting advertising, like, on, you know, magazines like this. For me, that's this kind of curiosity that leads you towards, you know, kind of liking something, like more than liking, loving something. So it's the most important. If you don't have, it's like anything when you start learning. If you start learning a language, if you don't want to learn that language, it's just not going to get in, you know. So if you, if you have to have that willingness and that passion and curiosity to get started. And then hopefully along the way as a kid, you are surrounded with people who are nurturing this natural curiosity and that path. So I would say as a parent, nowadays we've got more tools, etc. It's quite interesting to try to spot that that a young curiosity that a child can have for taste or smell or anything like this, and like kind of like lead them towards that. But it can be anything, it can be music or anything.
Yeah. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Obviously, you know, as an entrepreneur, this has been a very challenging time for you. But is there anything that you have enjoyed? Be taking after we're released from lockdown and after life begins to get back to normal? Is there anything about this time that has changed how you will live?
So quite a lot have cut out. So I think I've
okay. And we've only got a couple of minutes left. But is there one thing after lockdown from this time that you will take forward into the next stage of your life?
Yeah, into the business. So I think for me, what has been incredibly interesting is the shift towards online. And I think the thing that I want to then kind of keep developing. And it's been an interesting one with the online course, also pushing layers online, like we talked about the discussion set, etc. But also from a personal point of view, it's taking more time off because I've been working 6 days a week before the crisis, and the crisis had allowed me to make more time and space for myself. And it's really important when you're an entrepreneur, because before I didn't have space and I was really stressed, and you know, like, and I feel much better now, like breezier. So hopefully I'll keep that. I don't know if I will.
We're all going to try and do a bit of that. But anyway, thank you so much. For anybody who missed the beginning, the whole interview will be up on our website tomorrow with details of Emmanuelle's courses. And we send love from the Perfume Society to the Experimental Perfume Club. And we can't wait to see you in person again, Emmanuelle.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to the Perfume Society community for joining in. for meeting you. And yeah, and thank you so much for the opportunity to chat, and great to chat to you, Joe.